Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Board of Public Works meeting of July 18th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This meeting is also on Zoom tonight. That was reconfirmed by the governor today, so that we're perfectly legal on it. And the agenda for tonight is an appointment at 6:20, Yemvet's Island. Action items tonight are the encroachment issue in Patuxent Woods, indirect costs, town wastewater costs, discussing going forward on capital projects, a 60-40 split, implementation of Town Code 285-19.1, which is the PFAS bylaw voted last STM in 2021 and recently approved. Granting street opening permits for Jedediah's Path, PFAS letter for residents near the wells, grain layer license renewals, Totman Enterprises, Plymouth Avenue Pump Station Force Main Change Order 2022-01 is the contract number, and Grant Rock Seawall, I don't know what the PH stands for, Rod?
Phase 2.
Phase 2, okay, there's no 2 there. Phase 2, contract 2021-15, balance of change order. And then discussion, we're going to be discussing the fiscal year 2023 water, sewer, and trash rates, and water system impacts from the Moderna Mill Creek development. Then we will have review and vote to accept meeting minutes from June 13th, 2022, and June 28th, 2022, and then the superintendent's report. Do I have a second on the agenda?
I've got to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Did you put down the appointment for the MPETs? Did you read that up top?
Yeah, I did.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking.
Yeah, at the
no,
beginning.
I'll second. I know.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the agenda?
Second.
Carrier, aye.
Aye.
I'm Johnson, aye.
Thank you. Okay. Let's start off with the.
Do I need to do a roll call vote because it's a Zoom meeting?
Well,
I think I'll do it just to be...
It'll do no harm. It beats the Hippocratic Oath. May not do any good.
All right, so Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Shaughnessy.
No, Cusick.
I'm sorry.
Been demoted.
I have Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
I forgot. And
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Okay. Unanimous.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chair.
So the first item is the encroachment issue at Patuxent Woods. And the last discussion, as I recall, we were talking about an initiative of fencing and the order and actions that were being taken by the building inspector with the gentleman. Do you have that, Tom?
I was just looking.
Okay.
Okay. The McTuchet Woods, I know they met last week, that you were discussing, correct? It's water property. Jimmy Kent met with a fence company out there last week to get a price on fencing the whole area. There was a meeting, a pretty big meeting with town council, the building inspector, the town administrator, the fire chief and the police chief's representative. So they all met out there. They determined that they are encroaching on the town property. They've got Steinbeck and Taylor doing a survey up there to determine the property lines, and at that point they'll put the fence up. Some of the problems up there is that we still have electricity that we'd have to terminate at the bottom of the hill. There's a price tag involved with that of about just under $15,000. Yeah.
That would be for termination and removal?
That was just termination. I thought it was rather high. I thought we could do it ourselves.
It's not rather high, it's extremely high.
And it's their property, so I would think that it would be their responsibility to remove what's there.
Yeah.
But that was with Kathleen White before she retired, when I was dealing with her.
Okay.
So now that we've got new contacts, I've got to reach out.
Yeah, try it again, because I mean, as far as disconnection of electricity goes, it's just a matter of getting up on the pole and separating that. That's a
I don't know
15
if
to
they were
20
going to
minute.
remove the riser and take it back a certain number of feet. That's what I thought that the cost, why it was so high.
We'll grant them an easement for the rising.
Right. That'd be good. But I'll get some newer numbers.
Very good.
And I know, Ron, have you worked with them at all yet, with the building inspector up there? Have they reached out to you?
No, I just gave them the plan
The
that
plans.
was prepared by Millbrook, and I contacted Millbrook to see if they'd be interested in doing it, since they had already done the plan. They
Right.
interpreted the court decision. But the building inspector has that plan, and Jimmy Kent had that as well. And that's the plan that he gave to Armstrong for the estimate.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron, for that.
Yeah, we've already been up there once before, because he illegally tapped into the power in 2 locations. And he also had a structure on our property. He has cleared some of our property.
Should we not get a satisfactory answer from our friends at Eversource? I now have some very open contacts at the DPA.
Okay.
I'm perfectly happy to prod them.
Yeah, I think I prefer to go through them, and I think there'll be a little quicker reaction now.
Yeah, I prefer to work that way to start.
Right. They asked me
Yep.
if I would curtail from the phone calls and the emails. I said, as long as I have the service.
As long as you're quick and responsive, yes.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to propose that you gentlemen are both here for the meeting on the island, correct?
Yes,
sir.
So rather than having the 6:20 appointment, it's not a problem for you guys, we'll have you on first. Just the next item.
Fine.
That way you won't have to sit through all the rest of this stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. So, my understanding is you are looking to get a sprinkler system installed at the island. That is not something as a matter of policy that Public Works has done at any of the other islands, except for a couple of permanent municipal locations that are large. And we are in a time where the Mass DEP is requiring the water hour restrictions. And the state, my esteemed colleague next to me doesn't quite agree with the statement. The state has determined that we are under a water drought in this area. And, that would mean curtailment of any water, period. Even the watering hours are restricted, as you know, from the bottom of the sign as to when you're supposed to water. But I will give you the floor now. My preamble's over.
We were looking for basically just one sprinkler in the morning, one sprinkler in the evening, not any excess water usage. And of course, complying with whatever regulations they have for water savings, correct? We have water on the island now, we just want to irrigate now with a sprinkler system.
But you're going to need power to operate it.
We've considered that, we have an electrician ready to draw up paperwork that he needs, draw it from the pole.
That would also, I don't know how to say this. It is not an electrical cost I want to see imposed on the Department of Public Works electrical budget.
Let me just go back.
Because, hand watering does not require any electricity, and that is what we require basically of, the citizens for the most part. They happen to be one of them that goes out and hand waters.
Of course, yes.
Okay, let me,
This is Roger.
this goes back,
And actually, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You should both say your names and addresses for the record.
I'm Jim Bennett, commander of the MVets here in Marshfield, post 1996.
I'm Roger Regan. We also have another member
You say
behind
mine,
it.
yep.
Now, this is something that I have been working on since 1930. No, not 1930. my brother, let me start by saying, I'm a little nervous here right now.
Relax. Nobody's gonna.
You're amongst
Up or
friends.
down.
Yeah, okay. So my brother was killed in Vietnam, and I had a battle with the town to have his name engraved on the memorial park. It took me like 10 years to get it done. I ended up making my own money and having his name engraved. That was one thing.
Okay.
Now, this particular endeavor, it's our island, and that's the last, everything that was done, the island with the water on it is, it needs, I don't think it's I don't think it's
If you're saying you don't think it's asking too much, I understand where you're trying to get to.
yeah. I mean, it's, and that takes it out from the War Memorial Park
Yep.
to the Ambets Park, and that would be it.
I don't follow you with coming out of the embeds, the
Can I
memorial park.
interject, please?
Yeah. That's all right. Go ahead, sir. Your name
Everybody, my name's Tom Langdon.
and your address?
I live at 22 Billings Road, which is just a stone's throw from the island in question. Roger's been a friend of mine since we sang in the choir at St. Mary's Church in Brookline, Massachusetts. As 7th graders, his brother Ned was part of our little gang growing up. Unbelievably so, we lost Ned, and ever since then, my dear friend, has been giving his all to the town of Marshfield in any way he can to help veterans, disabled, people in need. It's been his cross to bear with this island right now, because it started out with a lot of hope and high expectations. I came on the scene. I grew up in Brookline most of my life, but I have been here since 1973. And what's going on here is that something is simple. By the way, I maintain the island, and I have a lot of people that took to me and waved to me when they go by, which is very much appreciated. But the crux of the matter here is that what is the big deal? We have water finally provided after 2 or 3 years of
More than that.
begging, more or less. Are you going to interject?
I'm listening. I'm making a note.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you. Yeah. So this has been going on for so long, and I came upon the scene probably 4 years ago and told Roger that I'd be happy to maintain the island and, to upgrade it. I mean, they were keeping it up the best they could, but my passion is gardening, and it's what I do. And for my friend Roger and my dear friend Ned, I'll continue to do so with everybody's blessing. Watering over there, for me personally, I'm 79 years old. I've been lugging water in a bucket from my house to the island for 3 years, as I do plantings, transplantings, and whatever it takes to make the place look. I think it looks pretty good. So, all I can say on the subject is that this is silly. We are metered, by the way. We're paying for the water. There's a meter was installed. I don't believe anybody else in the town has a meter on the Veterans Parks or wherever. Could be
The water
wrong.
supervisor answered that, not myself, because I don't have that knowledge.
I'm sorry.
I said the water supervisor will answer that when you're finished, as to whether there's meters elsewhere. So you can do it now.
Okay, Paul Duras, Marshfield Water Supervisor. Doing a great job keeping that island looking nice. But I think a couple of years ago back, you and I had a discussion.
Yeah.
When we put the water in,
Yep.
said, we're gonna provide you a faucet. You had told me Mr. Basie was gonna put in irrigation. I said, in no uncertain terms, it's irrigation going in. You have a faucet there to water your plants, your grass, whatever you want to do.
That's
And
it.
then Mr. Vacy came to me looking for containment devices for the irrigation system that he said that you guys were putting in. He said, there's not going to be an irrigation put in. That's not the policy. There's no irrigation on any town islands.
Are there any islands that look like that?
It looks very nice.
There's a couple
You
of
know,
pictures
it's
are
so,
in
you
there.
know,
all the
it's so
names,
nice, I
all
don't
the
see why
vets are
you
on
do
there.
need irrigation.
So you think that
To his diligence.
on my back alone, we're going to keep that place looking just like it is now? With a hose?
With the watering wand, yeah, I think you could do a pretty good job.
I think you're wrong.
Well, I guess we agree to disagree.
Well, we need to disagree. But,
Yeah, we're not going to have too much of a back and forth. That, he stated the policy, and it is an actual voted policy by the Board of Public Works, if I recall correctly, from the policy manual, which is part of the reason the answer has been no to this point in time. To my mind, if we are going to grant sprinklers to anyone, then it would require a policy change, and it would require a discussion by this board to determine which groups do we think should get that kind of thing, and which groups do not. It's not going to necessarily be an answer for you tonight, but it will be something that we add as a policy decision at a future meeting, because that is the policy. And we are, about trying to keep water use down, okay? And the further out you get from the water
excuse me,
system.
the sprinkler systems are actually a water-saving device. I probably spread more water with a hose. And I think Mr. Vacy, if he was here, he couldn't attend, would probably confirm that.
Okay, I'm not going to debate that with you, okay? The bottom line would be the policy change, as it would be happening if it happens, would also be looking at volume control and a limit on how much can be used by the sprinkler system in a situation on a per square foot of irrigation space, so that we can control the amount of water that's being used. Because once the sprinkler system is in, it isn't a lot of black magic to change the timer and durations and the hours, especially at times when maybe nobody's coming to look. And I'm not accusing anybody here of that. I am looking ahead to, okay, what are the sand traps out there that I don't know are there now as we look forward? That's why we have a policy discussion before we make a change like this. Is that it's not necessarily an honorable group like your veteran group is, and I respect, that you're trying to remember your brother, okay? I know the feeling. I didn't lose any brothers, but I lost a couple of classmates from Mass Maritime, and they were brothers and so. The bottom line to me comes down that I am not in a position tonight, without a policy change, to make a change at this time, okay? And now I'll give the floor to John.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I'd just like to say, thank you for all the hard work. And I also think we're probably making a mountain out of a molehill here. So, from my point of view, I'll ask you a question. Eric is going to put in the irrigation. I understand he wasn't going to charge you, is it?
He's not in charge.
He's not going to charge. So,
No cost to the town.
right, so you're going to take care of the electrical if needed, so there's no cost to the town. And you're paying for the water. So it's not, it's not a big deal to have this done at no cost to the town. I'm all for you. I mean, why not? I respect the vets. I love you guys. I'm not a vet myself, but I'll support you 1,000%. I think we should move on call for a vote, see what Mr. Shaughnessy has to say. This is no cost to the town. It's a beautiful spot. It's well-maintained, and you'll meet the requirements of the water usage that's in effect right now. You're not gonna go beyond that. So I don't see a problem at all.
Quick question for you, Tom. A meter installed on town property, can we actually have that arranged to be billed to a private entity?
I don't
It's a
think
question we have to
so.
get answered, I think.
I mean, if I could just say a few things about this.
Yep.
There's 70 islands that are in town that are adopted. Not one of them has water. All right, this island is fortunate to have a fire hydrant located in that island. That was the ability to tap and get the hose spigot. If there was no hydrant there, we would have had to dig out into the middle of Ocean Street to make a connection to bring a water line in. All right, but again, the policy is no irrigation on the islands. And we have 70 islands and nobody has irrigation.
No one else is gonna ask for this.
No, and no one else has ever asked either.
No, well, these are the vets. I'm supporting.
No, I understand that, and we support all the vets
I
in
know, but
town.
this is a simple thing. We're making a total mountain out of a molehill.
But we have a policy, we have to change the
We're
policy.
going to change the policy. We'll vote to change it.
That's what we would have to do in order
What
to.
is that policy? What does it say? I
It's
never
in our
heard of
bylaws, our rules and regulations.
It's in the policy.
We can change them at a meeting.
this. I haven't seen it. That we can't put
It's
any,
about that thick, it's up in the office.
but wait a minute, you know.
Well, I have one follow-up question, and then I'll give it back. Okay. Mentioning the Adopt an Island, was this island formally put into the Adopt the Island program?
It was a long time ago.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
But is it
Right,
now?
right.
No,
Is
it's
it-
not anymore, John.
It's not an adopted island. This
It's
is
not anymore, okay.
Not anymore. So what they're asking is no charge to the town. I will never see this on another island. This will never happen. These are the vets. Grant them the permission to have their irrigation put in. I can't see turning down the vets. I just can't.
Let's see what Mr. Sean says.
Mr. Shaughnessy,
Yes, sir. Favor of staying with the policy. If there's 70 other islands, it will, we'll start setting precedents and people will come up with creative ways in order to get irrigation in the islands. I back Dave.
Well, if I might, what I would like to do as a change is tell you that I want to review the policy, figure out if there is in fact a way to accommodate and yet narrow the focus of this as we go forward. You know, looking at the 70 islands, I know a lot of them are not on main ways and stuff like that. I have this immediate image of the island at the intersection of 3A, just before you go over the bridge. And I know that, you know, there is a gentleman living up in the Marshfield Hills that would champ at the bit to get water to that island if he could.
I mean, we've done work up there, we've moved bushes and stumps.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I know, I looked at it when we were doing some maintenance work up there on the water mains. And
But is that one they've
there was
asked?
a demand that we use Kennedy's Garden Center to replace it, and the bottom line was that was part of the contract for the guy that did the work. You know, these are the kinds of sand traps I worry about as I look forward. I'm not unsupportive of your desire for this, but I do want to look at the policy and figure out a way to narrow it, okay, so that it does not become excessive. Secondly, to basically lock in any system that's put in that limits the water take for the purposes of maintaining the green. And when we find ourselves into water restrictions and under drought orders, to curtail. Okay? If we are in a situation where maintaining capacity for fire and domestic use becomes an issue, and that can happen if we have some wells out or a tank out, you know, we would be curtailing the use. It would not matter what time of year it is, because at that point in time, it's about public safety, making sure we have adequate volume and pressure in the system.
Dave, they'll agree to all of that. They'll agree to it.
I'm not saying they won't, I just want to,
Well, I
Stated.
understand all that.
okay.
So this policy, narrowing of this policy, we'll put that on the next meeting? So-
That would be my move, is that we examine the policy.
For the
with-
next meeting?
Yeah, review it between Paul and Tom, delineate those areas where we think we might see people trying to come back, looking for what we give here, and, delineate how this group basically has singled themselves out as opposed to others. And if it's doable, it's fine. If it isn't, then, regrettably, the answer will be, you have to keep hand watering. Presumably, but I'm not quite done. Presumably with your post, you have more than just a group that's, in their 70s. I can speak as one of you, okay? And, I was Lieutenant United States Navy Reserve, in the old Merchant Marine program. I was humping ammunition to Vietnam, also throughout the mid 69 and 70. Unsympathetic to the position of veterans.
We had this one.
Gentleman behind you had his hand up first.
I apologize.
Go ahead. Speak again.
One last thing. I want everyone to know, this is the first time I've ever spoken publicly anywhere ever. And I'm finding everybody very receptive to my way of speaking. And the people of the town of Marshfield who live in that area, which includes a lot of us here, I get more compliments from people just driving by saying what a wonderful thing this is for our area. And while I'm at it, I want to introduce to you Colonel David Hazel, retired U.S. Marine Corps, worked at the Pentagon and was in Vietnam. Dave, would you stand up, please? Dave has been a major contributor to this veterans undertaking. He personally paid for the fence, he personally paid for the sign, and if he could, he would pay for the body water.
And the electricity.
And the electricity, and you name it. This guy deserves a round of applause
Yeah, I got one.
for caring.
For his
We'll give him another one.
I'll do that.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you all.
And with that,
You wanted to speak again?
I'm done.
I just wanted to add one thing. There may be 70 or 80 islands in the town, and they're all beautiful, and they're maintained beautiful flowers. But our island has a distinction of two memorial benches, granite, on pedestals, with engraved names of all our. It's just, that's the distinction between the other flowered islands. That's my only adage.
Well, I have actually presuming we find our way free to do this, and actually, maybe even if we don't. Okay, one of the projects I have taken on for myself is researching the United States Merchant Marine veterans of World War II, who in the mid-'80s were granted veteran status finally. And what inspired me was reading a book called Measureless Peril, in which there was a chapter describing the actions of the SS Stevens Hopkins, which actually encountered two German raiders in the South Atlantic in 1942. The armed guard was killed. The captain was Paul Burke from Massachusetts, and he had integrated his crew. And the crew ended up manning the guns when the naval gun crew was shot and killed. And a young man named O'Hara, who was a cadet from the Merchant Marine, was the last one to load the gun. The Seer was the vessel that sunk, the German vessel. And it was damaged badly enough by the naval gun crew with a 4-inch gun that they were able to take it out. And since the Seer had 6-inch, basically a 5.8 German guns with complete fire control, unlike a single sole set of sights, they fought to the end. And the United States Merchant Marine in World War II was under orders that you do not surrender the ship until the naval gun crew is no longer able to fight and the vessel is no longer able to make way. And yet those men lived with that through the 40s, but never had veteran status until it was almost too late for most of them. And I've been researching that to look for the names of the people from Marshfield who might have gone into the Merchant Marine and get them added to our veterans rolls wherever they are. And I might want to approach you gentlemen for that down there. And I was fortunate to be taught, when I graduated from Mass Maritime in '68, I was taught by a number of merchant mariners who had sailed and fought in World War II. So I'm not unsympathetic to the situation, but we have a policy, and I have to look at what can come down the road at us from it if we make a change. That's part of our responsibility. So, but the vote is, I want to make a motion.
Not to interrupt. So, the bottom line is that we're going to review the policy. I take everything that's been discussed tonight, and I want to thank all the veterans for their service, and we will take into account of that, and we're going to discuss that at our next meeting.
Correct.
Correct, okay, good, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
We'll discuss it and.
Yep. It will be an action item
Changes
again
that
for the
will
next one.
allow for your irrigation.
To enhance what we're doing, have Eric provide Paul with the timing he was going to have, the volume control, the volume of water that will be coming out of the irrigation system, okay? And the times of day in which it is going to be programmed to facilitate our review.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Very much.
Really?
How's he doing? I haven't seen him on the one. Good. How's my
Okay, our next item on the agenda is the indirect costs for the enterprise divisions.
Thank you for doing this, Dave.
I have drafted a policy for discussion tonight, and basically it details that general insurance, health and life, Medicare, unemployment, retirement, audit, OPEB, and payroll, actuarial studies, medical, alcohol, drug testing, and fuel costs will all be as a direct cost based on history plus whatever escalation might have to be done in the future. Okay. Any apportionment that has to be done by percentage will be percentage of employees or by the same as those for the indirect charges determined by a percent total town budget method, as is applicable and agreed to by both the select board and the Board of Public Works. Legal costs, both for labor council and town council, shall be based on the actual charges for the enterprise legal services from prior year and adjusted for inflation and a contingency of not more than 10%. And then the debt service is going to be from actual enterprise division costs, and postage will be from actual enterprise division costs. Shared services will be on the percentage of each enterprise division prior year cost divided by the total town costs, excluding direct costs as number one above. The select board, treasurer, collector, human resources, and facilities are basically the four divisions that support us. Any other support is very much exceptional, meaning it doesn't happen much, if at all. And the following services by DPW would be based on documented actual use by the enterprise division or on a percent of each enterprise division's prior year cost divided by the total DPW cost. And they constitute DPW administration, engineering, and equipment maintenance. Labor or material assistance provided by the enterprise divisions, to the enterprise divisions by the general fund divisions during straight time will be charged against the division which is services provided. And then labor and material assistance provided by the enterprise division during straight time to the general fund divisions of DPW will be charged against the general fund budget of that division. That does not happen very much on a regular basis, but it can, middle of the day emergency or something similar, where a road might have to be open or the water department staff might have to go assist. Highway, yeah. And one of the things I did is I have a spreadsheet that's attached. I won't go through it except for the bottom line. Basically, the 2021 actual town expenditures were $99 million odd dollars. From that, I segregated the $15 odd million that are associated with all of the insurance costs that I went through under item 1. And The net effect is the enterprise division total indirects for all three divisions combined would be $1,032,473. The actual indirect charges that were charged against the enterprise divisions in that year were $1,420,727. The effect is that there was a net reduction, would have been a net reduction of $388,000 had we been working on that formula. Prior formula only included general fund, non-school budget. We don't believe that is consistent with what is in the DOR guidelines and regulations. The black letter states it's the total town budget.
Right.
It doesn't say exclude school department.
It's in the methodology.
It's in the methodology, so the bottom line comes down that, the indirects as they were apportioned at that time, would have been less with a policy in place similar to what we have here, or if the prior policy had actually adhered to the total town budget. So that is what's out before the Board of Public Works for my contemporaries to comment
Yeah,
and.
well, the savings, put out the savings, you didn't, it's almost $400,000.
Yeah, I did, I said $388,000.
Well, I'm hard to hear it, so it doesn't really matter.
I'm usually not accused of being too soft with my voice.
Thank you. Yeah, no, this is terrific. This is the way it should be. So we've been working back and forth at meetings, and it's great now that we've moved forward with numbers. And I like the percentages of 4.1%, 6.2, and 5.6. Basically, what that is half of what they were charging us for. So
Since the denominator
right,
was basically increased.
using the total town budget. I've said that. Okay, I'm fine with this.
Before I go to Bob, what I'm looking for is that, you gentlemen will work your comments and information back from Anne Marie, and I will incorporate them for our next meeting.
Yep.
And once our board is satisfied with what we're going to present forward to the chair of the select board, with whom I first met and discussed this, along with town council, and as well as town councils, and then they can go to their board for further discussion.
Okay.
Okay? So I guess that would be the direction I am seeking for tonight. Bob, your comments?
So my comment is twofold. One, I agree with you on the indirect component of this, because that's been our wild card. And I agree that, we need to go direct where we can go direct and really question if it's not direct. That's the policy that we've had. The second component is the inflation issues. Is that,
I'm sorry, Bob, can you repeat that?
Inflation.
Yep.
Rod has an inflation factor, I believe at 6%. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm trying to be conservative on the inflation number and how much we're going to do on offset to even off the rates. I mean, we need to. Those are my concerns about. Are we using the right inflation number, and are we using the right indirect numbers? That's my concern.
Well, to me, the only inflation we should be using, is maybe CPI for expense items that they have to provide from an outside vendor.
Yeah.
But as far as inflation on the personnel costs, labor costs if you prefer, that should strictly be whatever the contractual agreements are going forward, and whatever raises actually happen, for personnel bylaw and, appointed positions that are under individual contracts. So, our inflation is really going to be, to my mind, a three-tiered thing.
I'd like to see.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm concerned. I understand where that's coming from, but, we're looking out 5 years, the first 2 years. Next year, we have an opportunity to reevaluate the numbers. But this year, we're looking at, 8-9%, just the last couple months. So it looks like something's going to happen. I'm just concerned that we go too low. That's all I'm concerned about.
And since this is a policy that is not yet actually cemented in place and will be using the final numbers from 2022, which captures at least a portion, fiscal year 2022, which captures at least a portion of that inflation, is sort of accommodated. And those things that can be justified, in other words, if somebody can demonstrate that healthcare costs went up by 15%, for example, okay? Well, we recognize that and we take our fair share of that, but no more than our fair share of it.
Yeah, but that's a direct charge.
Yeah, and that's a direct charge.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, the other charges like fuel, yeah, that right now fuel is in the atmosphere,
yeah, but it's a direct charge, so.
but it's a direct charge, so it's accommodated anyway. The only thing is,
Doesn't matter.
we will need to reflect that in the budgeting process based on usage. And we'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but-
Okay, so, I mean, I'm good with that, I just want to make sure that, that we are being conservative and not give away too much.
Agreed.
Not get the indirects out of whack.
Now, the other,
We constantly need to keep in check, those things that are direct need to be direct, and I agree with that. We've been fighting over that for the last number of years. Moving forward, I'm just concerned about giving back too much on the offsets, that's all.
all right, Bob, the only thing I was going to, I have to add to this is, there will be a front page to all of this, which basically is the policy statement similar to what you had for your executive summary, except reduced in size. And then, anything that we're referencing would be incorporated in an appendix, such as the DOR guidelines.
Well,
I'm okay with that.
yeah, well, I'd like to add, just
Right, go ahead.
for the viewers, and anybody here that would like to understand the indirect and direct, these direct charges, the cost doesn't change. It's the same cost. If the fuel is 400,000 as an indirect, it's 400,000 as a direct. It just makes a difference of how they deduct it from the overall town budget. So nothing really changes other than the fact that the direct charge makes a difference on the town's budget, how they deduct. So also I'd like to see, and I think you have it in here, David, I might have missed it, the cost from the shared divisions.
Yeah.
We need actual documentation. If someone comes up with a cost, how did you arrive at that cost?
Yeah.
That we need. Some of those charges are not backed by any type of a document. Ours are.
Understood.
Okay.
And basically, one of the ways I had discussions with both Tom and Dan today on this earlier, is one of the things to be added in here, Dan would have reminded me, I hope if I hadn't gotten it in, but we want to push them back to where they're monthly doing the indirect transfers, so that we have a running tally.
Good idea.
Okay? That's how it's supposed to be. Okay. Secondly, that we're instituting what amounts to a significant change to how the indirects are determined and how the offsets will be determined. Actually, the offsets aren't going to change because for the most part, we're telling them what they used for the general fund and et cetera. But to me, one of the items that should follow with this is at least one initial audit to verify that all of the divisions that are involved with this policy are actually accounting and accruing as they should be.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with you.
And that will be a request, and if it doesn't happen, then I don't know how we can sign off.
Right. Yeah, we need the document with it on.
So I'm going to sum up that it is my understanding that the board is going to provide me with comments, and I will continue to bring this to, hopefully, for the next meeting, a document for which we can vote to accept and put forward to the select board and town council and the town administrator.
Thank you, Dave, for your hard work on that.
Do I have a second for that charge?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Tom, poll the board.
Chairman Carrier,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick,
Aye.
Clerk Chauncey,
Aye.
So unanimous.
Okay, the next discussion is the item for action was the discussion of town wastewater costs and the 60-40 split. John had provided documents at the last meeting which looked at the real estate tax changes that have taken place in the recent past as a result, basically, in large part of the fact that there is sewer, that waterfront property, despite its theoretical endangerment, is in demand.
McMansions.
McMansions. In addition to that, after interacting with Kevin and also with some of the wastewater folk, as well as Tom and Rod, when I look back, Sewer 2000, I think went commercial in 2002. Right?
What's that?
Sewer 2000 was completed in 2002? 2004. Okay. So basically, we now have about 17 years of operation on that system. And some of what I see, looking back in time and also to the current day, particularly the Plymouth Avenue pump station, where we just finished an extensive amount of work and where there's still more to go, that became the main receptor for all of Sewer 2000. And I think since most of what we're seeing happens to be impacts immediately in that area, some of it due to atmospheric light, the rest of it is probably tied to the higher demand running through it as compared to when the pump station was first built. Because there was no Sewer 2000 back then. And it would be my opinion, that helps demonstrate that the sewer is flowing. There, about 4 developments went in after Sewer 2000 was completed. White Holland and some of the other places like that. Okay. So we know we added a lot, and none of those were buildable lots at the
55 and
time.
over.
Yeah, the 55 and over, but none of those were buildable areas until we actually ran the suicide system into that area, because they would have never had a septic system work. They would have never perked.
Right.
They would have had to have
Tight tank.
mounds 10 feet in the air, or tight tanks. So, I mean, there is a definite benefit that came out of that is now impacting the balance of the sewer. That I am a convert to the idea of getting some kind of a split, whether it's 60-40 or 80-20. I wouldn't go lower than that.
50-50.
But I'm a convert on that, where I wasn't when I was sitting in the superintendent's chair, because at that time we had not accumulated the stress on the system that we're seeing today, nor had we accumulated the rise in value, and real estate tax that's coming. So the general fund has benefited from the higher value of all of those properties, but they have increased the load on the wastewater system, and including downstream at the treatment plant.
And the material that was used for the pipe back then was supposed to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And over years, it's found some things that aren't so good with it. And it's sitting in a marsh, saltwater marsh. It's a cement-based pipe, so it's been in there for 50 years. So you have to think, when we do a camera of it, the inside may look good, but we don't know what the outside is. So the only way to check that is to do test pits in areas that we could pick from. But, it's time to, we do a lot of inspecting. We've been cameraing the Jetta. We've been using the Jetta periodically. We have a new one coming, a new Vector truck in August. And hopefully a new camera truck in October, so we can continue to keep up with the cameraing. We've done about, I think, 14,000 feet of main that they've cameraed since April. So they've got a pretty good idea of certain areas, but again, we're looking at the inside of the pipe. And what we found in Plymouth Ave, which was a metal pipe, a steel pipe, iron pipe, but what the acidic material, the salt marsh, has done to that, and what we're finding on Second Road, we need to address that immediately. So
external corrosion is catching up with us.
It's catching up. So, and it's, you know, majority, we're a coastal community. And, you know, a lot of our tax revenue comes from the coastal homes in neighborhoods. So it's, you know, it's an important part of the community, keeping it clean and safe for the residents. So the town as a whole benefits from our sewer. But yet we only have a third of the town that's sewer. So it's a big impact on the sewer ratepayers to, you know, it's a burden on them to be saddled with that full amount of the capital.
Agreed.
Agreed.
John?
No, I agree with that, because
Bob, any comments?
I was gonna make a
My
comment.
sorry,
comment is that we've cleaned beaches, we've cleaned South
That's
River,
right, that's okay.
and without the sewer 2000, which actually was implemented in 2002, South River would be still having problems with septic going into it. So I think it's a wonderful thing that we have the sewer in the wettest areas of Marshfield. And I think we need to maintain it. And I think it's an obligation for the whole town, not just the ratepayers in the that do have sewer. It's a benefit to everybody. And John did a good job of putting together the cost, and the town is getting the benefit of the cost with the taxes. So I think that it's a shared responsibility for those who are not on sewer to assist, to protect the rest of the people that are on sewer. I mean, when we did the abetments for the seawalls, we all agreed that it was one town. We should, on these major costs, it should be a town-wide shared responsibility.
Yeah, I agree.
So, go ahead, John.
Well, I'll just make the point of the properties that I looked at. One property had 3,600 square feet. It was an unbuildable lot, but it had a cottage. It was grandfathered. And that particular property, the cottage, because I did the plumbing for them prior, I didn't do the new work. It didn't even have an inside shower. But anyhow, they knocked that down and they built a 3.5-story, very, very nice home on 3,600 square feet. Never could have done that without the sewer. You couldn't do it. And that tax base and assessed value went from around $210,000 to over $500,000 just on that one house. So multiply that, as Bobby said, multiply that times the number of properties that are not buildable without the sewer. And it's really impacted the town's tax base tremendously, because these homes are absolute mansions that wouldn't meet code if we didn't have the sewer.
I'm going to propose a motion. And basically, one of the things I think the motion should be that we are asking staff to prepare some cost scenarios. One looking at a 60-40 split, okay? What's the impact to, the average sewer rate as a result of that on a capital project going forward as a shared piece? You can use any capital project that might be out there going forward. And also, the flip side of the coin, which is the impact to the general tax base on a given house as well. How much would my property taxes at 34 Outlook Road go up as compared to somebody on Ocean Street? So that type of scenario, you guys can figure it out. But I think that, having that, then we can have it for the next meeting as a discussion, and if we, things pinned down properly, then we can go forward, with it, to the selectmen and see if it's something we can get agreed to at the special town meeting.
Sure, and I know, I think in order to go that direction, I believe we would need to do a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
Agreed.
And I think we would have to also have a public hearing.
I-
So depending on the timing of this, are we looking at October town meeting, are we looking at the spring of '23?
What I would say is, you look at the volume of the work, the workload of the people, and decide where you could actually accomplish to get it done. You know, and I think we'll all support you in that meeting.
Okay, you know, and there's other options, SRF funding,
Right.
things like that, building a better America and everything else, but the loops and hoops they make you jump through to get this money kind of makes you not want to waste your time applying for it. And I mean, I hate to say that, but it almost, it's almost like they set you up for failure. The ARPA money, trying to get that money, we don't know where we are with that.
Yep.
You know, and now that the feds are saying they want to give us money, well, I mean, it's nice that you want to give it to us, but what we have to do to get it, and then don't hear anything after you apply. So it's difficult, and it's, you know, in the past, the interest rates were low, so the low SRF interest rates weren't that enticing. You know, now that the interest rates are rising, the SRF is what, some are forgivable loans. So you might, down the road, we won't see the money until maybe the end of next summer. Is that kind of what the time frame is? 2 years. You know, so if we've got emergency jobs we're trying to get done,
Yep.
you know, we gotta wait 2 years for the money.
I mean, that's why we want to get the 60-40 split with the capital, and agreed, you know, everything you say is accurate. I call experience in myself, and the bottom line comes down that, you know, it's almost like it looks good on the books, but they don't really want to drop the cards and play the game.
Right. I mean, we're willing to plan some projects for SRF funding.
Yep.
You know, it would benefit as long as we're prepared,
Yep.
you know, with plans, and there's still cost involved
Yep.
with plans to have, you know, your plans ready,
Yep.
your permitting in
Have to be
place,
shovel ready, yeah.
things like that. So you need some funding in order to prepare. Engineering costs alone are very expensive, so.
So that is the, you know, the charge that I guess, you know, can we do a motion on it? I don't think we do. No. Okay. So I move that we do the, you know, staff to begin the work and on a schedule that is achievable either for the fall town meeting if that's possible, and if not, then defer it to the spring town meeting to, you know, present to the select board and also to town meeting for their vote and consideration, that we will do that going forward with the sewer system. And,
Question, Dave.
fire away, Bob.
So my question is that are we going to just ask for a general policy of a 60-40 split? Are we going to take, this project will be a 60-40 split, this project will not?
It'll be capital.
It would be, the projects would be capital related in a 60-40 split, you know, as a, I guess it's a fallback position. We can look and see what the impact of 80-20 might be. But I would not, like I said, personally, don't think we should go any lower than 80-20.
Okay, for the major projects that are for rehabilitation, to make to rebuild what's already there, that we all benefit from. The 60-40 split, I think we need to have to do it by a project basis as we go to town meeting, versus just a general policy statement. I mean, that's just my point.
Capital budget.
Well, I mean, the idea is to get buy-in, at least initially, for one town meeting going forward, then you have a precedent in front of you. That, you gotta remember, there's a lot of people in town now that weren't here when 2000 took place. And there were people who were here in 2000 who didn't know the difference between the 60-40 split, just because they probably weren't at town meeting, you know, when it was voted. And, you know, to me, it's a matter of getting the policy out and reiterating it at each meeting with the capital projects as they occur. If we have other funding that can defer a 60-40 split to another point in time, great. But if we don't,
So,
we go for it.
yeah, so to to elaborate a little bit more on that, it's like we should have a list of projects that would be eligible for a 60/40 split and what funding we go for. If it's the state funding, federal funding, but it's a shared responsibility on those projects, and the normal maintenance is not a 60/40 split.
Right, it would just be capital projects.
Yeah, okay.
And/or capital replacement of a failed area that maintenance could no longer be performed. Plymouth Avenue, for example.
Right.
Would have been a good example. Okay. All right, so would you pull the board on that directive to the staff?
Motion's been made, Chairman Carrier,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick,
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy,
Aye.
so moved.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Okay. The next item is a discussion on the granting of, and action on the granting of street opening permits for Jedediah's Path. And this is at my request. What I want to do in this situation is not grant any street opening permits on a ad hoc type of basis. What I want to have is that the developer completes everything that he can, in a reasonably can, downstream of the cul-de-sac before we actually get into the operation of removing the cul-de-sac, opening the street in that area, and preparing this connection.
You missed 4.
Yeah, the
Oh, I'm
PFAS.
sorry, yeah, the pond, we'll get this one done, I stepped
Yeah, all right,
ahead.
all right.
Okay, you're right, I put my X in before I got there. Okay, so, I mean, I guess, the policy basically for street openings stipulates that it's the Board of Public Works through the Department of Public Works that grants the street opening permits, and for new construction.
Yeah, that's all good.
And, the thing I want is, to make sure the staff is fully aware and informs the planner, who can then thoroughly go forward to inform the developer that, that is what we are requesting. And, I would suggest that he should get together with, the developer should get together with staff, discuss what his construction plans are currently, make sure they conform to what we're looking for, and tell him where we want to change it. John, you gonna comment on that?
No, I'm with you. No, you cannot call.
Bob, you got any comment?
It's beyond me why the planning board voted to eliminate that island. I have no comments on otherwise.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so basically that is the direction, please, to put forth the staff and forward to the planner. Okay. Implementation of Town Code 285-19.1, which is the PFAS bylaw. And as was passed at the October 18, 2021 special town meeting, this bylaw was voted in. It requires any entity coming into town to work in Zone 1 and Zone 2 is required to basically not bring PFAS in as part of their work products, solvents, cleanings, materials, whatever materials might be. And if they have no resource or substitute for that, then they have to have a plan by which they will prevent the PFAS from getting into the ground and therefore ultimately into our aquifer. And basically, I want to make sure that staff is reaching out and informing, fully informing, planning board, zoning board of appeals, anybody we're doing business with in town, and in particular, since I have seen the Osmos folks shooting around in a pickup truck again lately. Haven't seen them doing any actual pumping. Make sure that Verizon and Eversource are fully aware of this, so that they know, if they're going to come in to do coal treatment any place, and it's any place within Zone 1 or Zone 2, it is their obligation to inform us and make sure that they have some method by which, if they have, the product contains PFAS, and I cannot imagine that the products they are using do not contain PFAS, how they're going to offset that. And if that means they can't pump it in, before we ever had osmosis treatment, we used to pull the poles out of the ground and put in a new one.
That makes sense.
So I just, want to make sure that, staff will be on that and get it out, and I would like to be copied on any emails and other items that are going out. This is my particular, being my board.
I'm all for you, Dave. Thank you for that.
So, poll the board that what I just stated.
Is there a motion?
Yeah.
What's the motion?
Motion?
Motion is to direct staff to make sure that all town entities and any contractors the town deals with regularly, and those entities that might be dealing with new ones are informed of the PFAS regulation that is available to them.
Okay.
I'll second.
Seconded. Poll the board, please.
Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thanks, Dave. That was a lot of hard work.
If something is close to your heart, it doesn't matter. Okay. I'm okay with the letter as it's currently written now, with Anne Marie's incorporating the changes that were taken in. So I guess the action would be for us to vote it as is, or changes if need be, and then
Sign it.
proceed to signing it.
No, I'm for this, Dave. Thank you so much for the hard work and bringing this to the attention for this.
Well, one thing I'd like to point out to anybody listening in the audience, a lot of what is in here is actually paralleling actions that were previously taken, by example, the state of New Jersey and the state of Maine in their own legislative actions. And, you know, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts basically, with its latest actions, has basically come in on the same vein and time frame. And the U.S. EPA has gone one better on certain contaminants, the most significant of which is the PFOA, PFOA, which is what used to be in the, is in the firefighting foams and is a really known carcinogen. And they have that at a very, very low 4 parts per 4 trillion level.
Yeah, I'm ready to vote on this, Dave. If you want to move the motion, I'll say.
I would make a motion that we approve the letter as written and sign it, if the copy is ready tonight, if not at our earliest convenience.
Second.
I have,
Poll the board, please, Tom.
Motion's been made, seconded. All those in favor, Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Okay, we're now signing next Monday night.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, the next item is the new drain layer licenses. You handling that, Ken?
I got that.
You're gonna take it, okay.
Yeah, Russell B. Totman, Totman Enterprises, Inc., has submitted his application, appropriate insurance documentation and bond documents to the wastewater superintendent. And the application has been processed and approved by Clint Stetson, our chief wastewater operator.
I've seen his work. He did a lot of work on water. He's decent. Decent contractor. You want to make a motion?
Yeah, why don't you make a motion?
Where is it? Oh, make a motion that we approve, Totman Enterprise for the drain layers license with the town of Marshfield Department of Public Works.
Second.
Which has been made and seconded. Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay, the next item is the Plymouth Avenue Pump Station Force Main Change Order 2022-07. Thank you, sir.
What is this one? Oh, this is the next.
Yeah, this, I was waiting for a balance change order, I didn't get it, but we also had an addition and a change that we want to propose to the board. The last meeting, we got authorization to, for change order number 1, to replace the section of failed sewer from Ocean Street to Everson on Second Road. And after talking with the contractor, they're willing to do the next 230 feet from Everson to Plymouth Ave for a cost of $31,700, I believe, or $31,700. The fact that they're there, they're mobilized, and everything else, the additional cost, and after talking with the wastewater division, we highly recommend that we just replace that whole piece. And after talking with Tom and Dan about how to fund that, we were talking about taking that out of their budget because we only had $100,000 in the reserve fund, and we're going to need an additional, I think it's
$23,000.
something like that. So the motion is to amend the change order that we had previously authorized to an amount of $123,100 to replace 500 linear feet of 8-inch diameter AC sewer at Second Road from Ocean Street to Plymouth Ave.
And as memory serves me, the prior change order was in the neighborhood of $91,000.
Right, we put a $25,000 difference
Right.
between.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get that out there. Check. So, the math works for me, and I'm in complete agreement that as long as the contract is there, we know it is a stressed area of the line. We had a recent meeting, which I attended along with Ken and our superintendent, Tony Reynolds, where proactive action by the DPW was being encouraged by the Board of Selectmen. This would be our first item piece to that. And so I think it's a good idea. I support it.
I support it too, Dave. Yeah, no, I support it 100%.
Mr. Shaughnessy?
I had no comment, but actually I do have a comment. The comment is the change order, which I'm in favor of. Is that where the sewer discharges?
No.
Did I miss something?
No, it's a sewer main that runs from Ocean Street to Plymouth Ave and intersects at Everson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in very poor condition.
All right, so I must be looking at the wrong one. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm okay with the change order.
Okay. I'll read the motion. Motion to amend change order number 1 to contract 2022-07 to the amount of $123,100 to replace 500 linear feet of 8-inch diameter AC sewer in Second Road from Ocean Street to Plymouth Avenue. The chairman or designee will sign the change order when the documents are prepared. Yes, second.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Chairman Carrier,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick,
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy,
Aye.
so moved, unanimous.
Thank you for your work on the project. And Ken, I assume too.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Next item is the Grant Rock Seawall Phase 2 Contract 2021-15 balance change order. Mr. Giroux?
Yes, so the project is complete. They're watering and they're meeting their contractual requirements, and we haven't released final payments yet, but the work is essentially complete. And so we're in the process of trying to close out this contract. And after looking at all the quantities, making adjustments, the final adjustment to the contract will be an add of $15,932.26. Essentially, we found there was additional demolition, concrete demolition, as we constructed the seawall. We found additional concrete that was buried, and it was quantified by the resident engineer on the site. So between that and the different quantities of block and square footage of sod and other minor quantities, the net result is an increase of $15,932.26.
I went through this when we first got the book, and I'm good with the documentation as it's been presented. I have no further questions.
Yes, no, I'm fine, but I can see the documentation and very precise. No problem, I'm for this.
Mr. Shaughnessy?
This is just a final change and we can close up the job, correct, Bud?
This is correct.
Okay, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Want to take a turn reading the motion?
Yeah. Motion to authorize change order number 1 to contract 2021-15 Brett Rock Seawall Reconstruction Phase 2 with MIG Corporation, Acton, Mass. For final adjustment of bid quarterlies with net increase in the amount of $15,932.26, and to authorize the chairman of designee to sign the change order when the documents are prepared. Do I hear a second?
Second.
On the board?
Motion's been made and second, Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Aye.
So moved, unanimous.
I'd also like to point out that Charlie was a project manager, project engineer on the job, and did a great job.
He does.
I would not expect less.
Neither would I.
Okay. Next item is a discussion on the water, sewer, and trash rates for FY 2023. Are you going to handle this, Tom, or is Rod handling it?
Rod and Ken are here
Tom,
for
Ken,
that.
okay. They got the torch.
Okay, I'll do water and sewer and Ken, and take a whack at trash. You should have a water rate projection. I have the right one. Hold on a second. In your package. Just forward it. So basically, our FY '22 rate for water was $3.98. Last year, we didn't increase the rates. I don't think any of the enterprise funds were increased. We held the rate. This year, we're proposing a 4% increase in the rate because of the cost of the new budget in FY '23. Last year's rate was $3.98 in water. That's for the average residential use, which I think was 66,000 gallons or something like that. And so that would mean a 4% increase would mean $414 for that amount of water usage. It's a 4% increase proposed. We did use $425,000 voted at town meeting this past spring to supplement that budget. It also includes $845,000 worth of capital projects that were approved at town meeting. And if you look at the cumulative surplus, and the out years I've shown a 6%, and as we go through every year, they change, but and one other thing I did do was on the expenses. I increased the expenses from 4% to 6%, just because of the inflation that we're seeing right now. And we'll have to see how that all works out. But traditionally, we were 2% on salaries, annual increase for our out years, and 4% annual increases on our expenses. So I increased that a couple of percent to 6% of total increases in expenses annually. And one other point I want to make is that at the end of the year, if we didn't use our reserve fund to fund any emergency work that we had to do, then that 100,000 or part of that 100,000 would then roll over to retained earnings. So conceivably, if you didn't use 100,000, your cumulative surplus in the end could be $500,000 more. But we used it last year, so who knows what's going to happen in the next 4 years. But that is something that was brought up in the past, and if it wasn't for our emergency line item, we would be in trouble this year in water. So I'm proposing a 4% increase in FY23, and we predict that there'll be a surplus of somewhere around $74,000. That's about 1.5% of your budget. That's a target that we shoot for, and that's pretty much it as far as what's in this recommendation. I'll go through sewer next, and I'm not sure that you are prepared to even vote on this tonight. I do have a rate sheet that was prepared that I could provide if you so choose to vote on that. Sewer.
I don't mean to interrupt, but just to step back a little to water, your recommendation is for, we didn't raise the rates last year,
Correct.
so I didn't know if you mentioned that in your opening.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we did either the water, the sewer or the trash, I think
Right.
was changed last year.
Right.
So I'll either jump to sewer or take questions on water.
John has a question.
Just a question. It's a small amount. It's on the comments. It's 70,000 for pickup truck for the plow.
Yeah, that was in town meeting. I pulled that out of the warrant.
So we've got another plow. But how many plows do we have?
No, it's replacing an existing, it's not a new one. So you get rid of the truck, it's at the end of its life, you trade it in and you get another truck to replace it. Well, the truck you traded in has a plow on it, so you get a plow. Because if it's the water department pickup trucks, those guys are the well guys, so they take care of, they plow with that truck for the wells, so. And it's, there's 2 pickup trucks in the wastewater, but they all.
I know, it's a small amount, but I've been down the yard and I've seen the number of plows, and I've said to myself, why do we need another plow? I mean, can't you buy a pickup truck without the plow and then have the setup put in and use one of our plows?
Well, what you want to do is,
Maybe it would cost more to do it that way.
when you buy the truck, you've got to have it all set up for the plow.
So it's easier to have it with the.
It's easier to buy it because it comes as a kit like.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And they do, the plows I know do take a beating. I was watching people on doing some welding this past winter.
Oh, the big ones take a beating, that's for sure.
He was working on a pickup truck that one.
All right, I'm okay with just that. Thanks for the hard work.
The debt service remains at about $1 million for 5 years.
Okay.
Sewer rate projections. The current rate in FY22 is 8.14. We are also proposing a 4% increase. The projected surplus from this year, along with the $325,000 that was voted at special town meeting, I think it was, for the offset, would yield a surplus of about $125,000, slightly above what our target is, but the sewer, that's the one that we're always struggling with, that budget. So I'd rather be a little bit on the Savers decided more conservative with this estimate. And the out years are in the 4 to 5% increase as shown on here. And again, we review this every year, so these are just projections. We had 175,000 included in our projections of the camera truck for 175,000, the fitness permit compliance for 100,000, and 535,000 for the factory truck. That was approved in the springtime meeting. Debt services remain about $1 million over the next 4 years. We are looking at the SRF funding right now for implement that out. And one of the reasons why we're looking at that is because the ARPA funding that we thought we had a commitment for $2 million. When you work with the SRF funding, you're allowed to use other funds, other town funds with the project, which is the hang-up that we had when we found out that we couldn't use ARPA funds. When we were looking at Surf Avenue, that we were told we couldn't use other funds, which was crazy. But that's just the way that program is. But with the SRF program, you can. So that's why we're looking into the SRF program right now. We can dovetail ARPA funds with SRF funds. And over the next couple of days, there's going to be a phone call to DEP just to see how that can be done. But that's the plus side of looking at the SRF. The negative side is it's probably going to take us 2 years. We'll have to get authorization in the spring. We'll work on the design immediately as soon as we get proposals, and we'll be back to the board getting approvals to go ahead with the design. We'll go with a preliminary design initially with cost estimates and a design memorandum report. And then we'll move into a final design phase, and hopefully that design will be done by the spring. We'll have a town meeting warrant article if we choose to move ahead with this SRF to get authorization for the project, and once we determine what the total cost is through the design process, and then in the fall, I guess you enter into an agreement with the loan. So you're probably not starting to the following spring, so it's a timely thing. But you can use the ARPA funds. Now, I don't know if you can use it on the front end or the back end, but that's the advantage, and we'll know more in the next couple of days on how that works. So that's the latest approach on trying to get the Plymouth Avenue pump station upgraded. The force main is done. The station is operational right now. And the next stage would be to get all that electrical moved up to that first floor because of all these flood considerations and sea level rise and all that other requirements that you have when you upgrade your pump stations. And then we've got a new generator proposed, and so all the electric will be upgraded, the odor control, the disinfection equipment. So it's a major upgrade, and the ARPA funding is necessary to be able to get all that work done. So we're hoping that we can figure out how to dovetail both of those projects. So anyways, I did build in some debt service to account for this borrowing as part of this 5-year scenario. And so for this year, we're looking at a 4% increase, 814 current FY22 rate to 847 FY23 rate.
That's $33. That's very fair. 33. The water was only 16.
But I mean, and again, this was a situation where we did not have a rate increase last year.
Right.
So, you know, it is basically, you know, if you like, an annualized 2%. Yeah, and considering where inflation is right now,
1 year. And,
Dan, question?
again, I use 6% in the
Just hold on a
expense.
second.
I use 6% in the expense. I went from 4 to 6
Right,
on that as
okay.
well. That's fine for the other years.
6% makes sense for, yeah, I see that for inflation. Okay. Go ahead, Bob, what's your question?
My question is, what is the need for, taking retained earnings to offset rates? If we don't take as much and offset the rates, how does it really affect the rate? We got one that's $425,000, another one for $325,000.
Right. So,
And, you know, we're
so you'd have to
that's
add
to
another,
offset the rates.
so for water, you add another $40 to the rate. For sewer, it's, let's see, there's what, 4,000 accounts. And I don't know what the amount was.
325.
325. Yeah, so 4,000 accounts into 325, but that you'd be adding that,
About 80 bucks.
$80, right? Yeah. So if we have available retained earnings, we often will use those to try to keep the rate constant, so that we don't have this up and down when your debt service drops off. You know, sometimes it drops off in chunks, and we use these retained earnings to try to even out what the rate will be, and we've been pretty successful, I think, so far doing it that way.
Oh, so the rate is gonna go up by $40 this year, it'll be $40 next year, it'll be $30-something the next year, is that, it's stable from there?
Well, we're predicting about a 4 to 6% increase each year. And I did increase the expense line again because of the inflation that we're seeing right now. I threw that in there just on the safe side. It might be more, but typically we use a 4% expense rate.
Okay, thank you.
And, I mean, this also, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if we can persuade the Board of Selectmen on that split with capital would be beneficial to the ratepayers.
Over the long haul, it will help
Over the long
reduce future rate
Right.
Yeah,
necessity.
that's a good suggestion, John.
This last borrowing that was done on Plymouth Ave, they structured the borrowing such that you pay very little in terms of principal up front. And then in the end, you're paying a lot, so you're not, so we were able to move ahead with Plymouth Ave. For the longest time, we had some problems with being able to fund the UV project, and the treasurer was short-term borrowed that in order for us to get past the, to get to the point where we could afford that additional debt service. But you'd be paying back principal, and that was something that he didn't think we were able to do right away. So he short-term borrowed that, and then they long-term borrowed it when they thought the timing was right. So,
Just in summary, I'm satisfied with what you have produced here as presenting a viable approach. Costs have increased, that has to be recognized. Holding to a 4% increase, I think, is pretty reasonable. Obviously, anybody that is using water, therefore sewer, if you run a sewer system, consumption is what drives your bill more than what the rate is. And, if you are able to curtail water use, it's fine. If we have more water use, then our revenue goes up, and actually that benefits the retained earnings in the long haul. So, I'm okay with what is presented here for water and sewer. I have no further comment. Mr. Hughes?
No, I'm fine with it. That's a good presentation, well documented, very well explained.
I do have the rate sheets, I'm not sure if you want to do these, this is,
Did they have copies?
No, we do not.
no, they didn't,
Why
but I
don't
didn't
you-
know if you wanted to move ahead with this.
I don't know.
Okay, but I did-
If I might, go ahead,
I
Dan.
forwarded that information over to the treasurer, she was reviewing, she did have a question, I didn't really look into it, she sent it over to me late in the day, so. The
That's all right.
question regarding the commercial rate,
Oh, okay.
I think it's an easy explanation, I don't think they'll have any other issues with it, but
The reason Dan raised that comment, Bob, is that we had a prior commitment with the previous treasurer collector that we would let him have a seat at the table when it was time for rates. And, you know, the action that Dan took sending this forth along with the data that Rod prepared, you know, was our form to give her a chance to look at it and, you know, decide whether she wants to ask some questions before we approve rates, so that when she deals with the Board of Select, the Select Board, excuse me, you know, she will have her explanations in hand. And one thing I want to make a comment on, and we want to make sure when we go forward with the, as we did this past year, and going forward, whether it's a special town meeting for any changes that might happen, that if we are subsidizing with retained earnings from rates, that is a specific line item voted, so that we do not have the issue we had 2.5 years ago, where the treasurer, you know, we were called on it, and basically it stemmed from the account doing her job the right way, saying it was never voted, you can't spend it.
I don't know why they took those three articles out. Should have separate.
Well, that is an item as we enter the next annual town meeting
Yeah, we should
approach,
have-
the preparation of the warrant
bring
is
those
something
back.
to put forward to, actually subsequent to that, Mr. Moresco, our town moderator, actually said maybe we should start putting that stuff back in, and I said, yeah, we absolutely should. So you can't spend it if you don't vote it.
Right.
Right.
So Ken has prepared the solid waste budget and rate projections, so want to take it away, Ken?
Sure. Did you get the memo that I prepared on that? Is that the package? No?
No, I don't have anything.
And the rest of us don't have that piece of it yet either. Thank you, Ken.
All right, so I'll walk you through this. So the current rate is $380. The pay-as-you-throw bags are
Second page.
$2. We had 1.4 million in February 2022 for retained earnings, and then at the special town meeting in April, we took 300,000 out of it. So we're ending up 22 with 1.11 million. We've got a great collection rate for the solid waste fund, 92.7%. We are bringing in a lot of revenue from weigh and pay, and we've got our public services contract, which is pretty favorable for us. It was fixed on fuel surcharges, so we really haven't seen a fuel surcharge hit us yet. But looking forward, we're going to get dinged by that a little bit. And we've had some pretty good pricing for trash, as they're the largest contributor into the CMAS facility, so they get pretty favorable rates. The most significant changes going forward are that we have the new contract that we're working on with Republic, the 3-year agreement with the 2 one-year extensions, and the fuel surcharge. The new contract is escalated from the 1.9 million that we're currently doing to just over $2 million. So that's like a 7.1% increase. For the collection. The disposal, on the other hand, is not as bad. It's going from $96.59 a ton to $98 a ton, which is like a 1.5% increase. And the recycling costs are the same as they are now. They're basically market driven, so it just really is about what the value of those are at the time that we get rid of them. So looking ahead for the disposal costs, I kind of looked at a projection of the fiscal year 20, 21, 22, and then projecting into 23. For recyclables, we were at 3,328 in 20. It went up in 21 to 3,397, and then it dropped down actually in 22. So I just am looking at a 3-year average for that to get the 3,300. For the trash, trash is continuing to climb. It's almost a 10% increase from 20 to 21, 21 to 22, and I'm looking at that same as we project forward. So that is a big difference. If you look at the last 6 months, our average recycling cost us about $50 a ton. So if we look at that with the future $98 a ton for disposal, we'd end up with the disposal cost of just over 1.5 million. And in our budget, we have 1.5 million, so we're pretty close on that one. Again, the recycling market is going to drive that somewhat. If the recycling costs change, we will have that. And then, of course, the other thing is really about the volume. So looking at the volume, contractor's demo is really the one thing that's been changing over time. So I've got the graph on page 2, and you can see that Paul started this tracking that I continued on. And since 2015, it was kind of steady, 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19 started to take off, and it continues to rise dramatically. So if you look at 2019, we were averaging about 34 tons a week receipts, and now we're up to about 100 tons a week. So we're basically tripling that. It's probably due to lack of disposal capacity, but it's probably also due to pricing. So I looked at some of the nearby towns and what they charge for C&D. So you look at Situate's at 300, Duxbury's at 600, Kingston's at 320, Plymouth's at 340, Cohasset's at 320. We're at $150, and we charge a minimum of 100, so you have to basically have 2/3 of a ton. You pay up to 2/3 of a ton, you pay the 100. So that changes our overall weighted average. It gets it up to about $160 a ton. So my recommendation is we really need to look at that, and we really need to raise that. So I'm suggesting that we raise that up to $180 a ton and keep looking at the tonnage going forward. You never know what it's going to do, but it's likely when you raise the rate that people are going to think they can find somewhere else to go. So we might see some loss in tonnage, but I think based upon the rate increase, I think we'll end up still being okay as far as a revenue basis. And for all the tons that leave, we don't have to pay for their disposal, so it gives us some leeway there. So what I looked at doing is looked at a 5-year projection, and unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to do a pretty decent increase from the 380 to 416, which is a 9.5% increase in fiscal year 23.
I just want to interrupt you for a minute.
Yep.
Ken, that on the sheet you provided us, FY 2021 is the heading,
Oh,
the 416
you are correct.
is, so I mean, the cut and paste didn't slide properly.
It did not. I will fix that and reissue that.
It's 23, 24,
Yep.
25, 26, and 27.
Got it, thank you. So we're going from the 380 to the 416, and really it's a step increase. It's a 9.5% step increase, and it's really due to having the new contract and trying to adjust the rates according to the new contract. From there on out, it looks like if we can go around a 5% increase, we should be okay. Again, this is assuming that revenues from all of our stickers, our bag sales, scrap metal is not going to change, and we still get a collection rate of 90%. We are going to go ahead and try and change that rate with your permission for the contractor's demo, but we're assuming in this analysis that the revenues end up still being the same, whether we gain more revenue because we don't scare away people, or we scare some people away, but the revenue ends up being about the same.
Looking at the adjacent towns, we would still be significantly lower on average. So I don't think it'll scare away any volumes that are currently local coming in. The only people that would go away would be those that can haul directly someplace.
Right.
And, I don't picture there's a lot of that out there, so I think your projections are probably okay. This looks good to me, and I don't have any additional questions or concerns.
I have a quick question. Is 180 adequate?
Yeah, I mean, we're still paying 98 for disposal, so there's some extra work that goes on with that kind of material, because it is bulky, so it needs to be maybe handled a little differently, so a little bit more wear and tear on the machine. So ultimately, if there were less tons, I don't think it would really be a bad thing for us, but.
What I'm thinking is if we increase the commercial rate to 200, what impact would that have on that 9.5% increase?
So with so I did a little sensitivity. Yeah, I did a little sensitivity analysis. I guess I was looking more on tons than dollars. So $20 more is on 4,000 is $80,000.
Just thinking if we raise, I mean, the lowest is 300 of the nearby.
Yeah, I guess the way I always look at it is you always have an opportunity to raise it again.
Yep.
If you raise it too dramatically and scare folks away, it's always tough to get people to come back. Once they find another place, if you're forcing them to look around and they do find another place, then bringing them back is tough to do. So you're better off doing incremental changes. If we see that we raise it up and there's no increase and that chart keeps taking off and we're going continually higher, then we do another one. And there's nothing to say you can't do it every 6 months.
Yep.
But Tom's question prompts one for mine, and that is, for me, I didn't think it took this down. Do you know the dates at which time the Situate, Duxbury, Kingston, and Plymouth established, Cohasset established those higher rates?
I know that it was May of 21 was the last one I think I saw for Situate.
Okay, so they've had these rates in place for a while.
Yeah.
Compared to us. So I guess that kind of brings me down on the side of where Tom was going, is that we're late to the party in raising rates, so to speak. And, from the C&D, I think certainly an additional $20 or even an additional 40 is certainly shouldn't scare too many people away. I mean, we still have a decided advantage over the town of Duxbury, for example, which is the nearest low price.
The 300.
But I guess, maybe Ken's approach is probably, or suggested idea is, maybe if we were to do just a minute, Bob, I'll give you the floor. Hang on. It would be to, if we did 200 now, just see what the changes are in tonnage over the next few months.
Yep.
And then if it's having no impact, we can raise the rate again.
Yes.
It doesn't require a town meeting from us or anything like that, so. You had a question, Bob?
Yeah, my question is that the C&D number, what was it, the number was, used to be low and now it's high. Are we considered a hub for C&D waste? And even if we raise the rate to 200 like Tommy had recommended, we're still the hub. It's easy to get to and easy to get disposed of. Will it really affect us?
Yeah, well, we do see, from what I'm told, we do see people from Situate. So I think when Situate raised their prices, people found Marshfield as a suitable place to go.
No, I think, I would say, we're obviously not going to be voting the rates tonight anyway, so maybe a couple of sensitivities, pick the numbers you like, and see how it works out between yourself and Tom and Rod as to what you think, should be done as sensitivity case studies to see it and look at the impact on the residential rate. And let's go from there for the next meeting. We can pick a scenario that fits.
Does that work for you guys?
Question, Dave.
I'm sorry, Bob?
Question, what is Situate's rate currently?
300.
He doesn't have a copy of this in front of him.
Yeah, 300 is Situate.
So, I mean, even if we went to like, 200 plus, I mean, we were lower, I mean, that's the, if the going rate is running, in the 2s to low 3, and we're in the 1s, of course we're gonna be the hump of, because we're a bargain.
Right, and that's why if we go to 200, we're still a bargain.
Yeah. But I think the idea of having a number of scenarios of, like $20 increments, say 3 of them, is, see what the impact is on the actual rate increase.
Maybe about $8 on the rate, I think roughly 80,000
Well, I mean,
divided by 10,000.
yeah, that would be about right, but I mean, I'm just saying, you have the $20 increase, but I mean, if you have, let's say you go to 240 as opposed to 200, and 260 as opposed to 240, and just have those as like 3 case studies, what is the impact on the dollar rate, and, the percentage increase goes down, obviously, and anything that looks like a decrease is a plus to the residents. The residents are the bulk of what we do.
Yep, it's just hard to predict when you raise the rate, what the impact is on the tonnage received.
Right, but I recognize that, but where I'm going is, we see what the incremental changes impact each rate study, so to speak, and then we pick the one we think is the best guess with no impact on tonnage. If we don't see a change in tonnage, and we still see the, basically, the solid waste staff knows who's coming and going.
Yep.
So they can almost tell you the change as soon as it starts happening. I mean, they know the usual players, so to speak.
Yes.
To me, that would be the approach. And as you pointed out, we find that, okay, we are losing volume, and that's, the net cost would be static or down. Okay, maybe we'd want to stop and hold. The odds are elsewhere is going to be maybe raising rates again too, if the last time they did it was 2021. For example, for Situate, that's a while ago. And there's been a lot of trash issues since then.
Yes.
And more of it's going to C and D. And I mean, a lot of people have been doing more work on the houses than being stuck at home. I got a neighbor next door that added a whole floor.
Well,
I'm done.
we're the cheapest game in town at the price we're charging per ton. So I think if you look at it at 180, perhaps 200, still be $100 cheaper than Situate. It's something to look at. I don't think it will drive anybody away. They might go over to Situate once, and this doesn't impact the residential at $35. It's not down, stay the same.
The sticker?
As far as stickers?
Residential, if you-
No, the rate,
Residential way of paying.
Oh, yeah.
The way you pay.
No, I'm not looking at changing the residential ban pay at this time.
Yeah, that's really worked well for the ones that, and they never really come to a ton anyhow. So. Okay, all right. I'm
So Ron, if I can just back up for a second, the water rates,
Right.
and you've gone out a couple of years on those, what impact is going to the quality billing have?
That,
You didn't even work,
No, I mean,
okay.
yeah, we had Gardner
Right.
hired for that.
Yep.
I haven't even talked with him, I don't know if Dan's.
yeah, Eunice is getting pushed off, so, we're a year away from Eunice anyways.
All right.
Maybe this time next year we'd be doing quarterly bill.
But we will have to jump on this, we might need a special meeting.
For the rates?
Yeah, because they've got us on an accelerated, I'm just talking
Right.
about this.
All right, so
Reading schedule,
that's
so.
what we'll discuss when we schedule our next meeting. It will be early rather than later.
We're trying to get our first submission over to the treasurer collected by the 8th of August, so that the bills would be due on the 9th of the 8th of September.
August 8th would be our next meeting.
Well, what I would suggest is that if we need a quicker scenario than that, we can do it one agenda meeting to take care of establishing the rates so that we get whatever deadline is needed by
We did
the
that.
staff.
We've done that in the past.
Yeah, we can do it again.
Just for rates. We did that.
I mean, I can give the staff the rate sheet, and they can be working towards that if it seems like we're moving ahead with the 4% increase.
Okay.
And they can be ready for it, they just won't pull the trigger.
What we'll do is, this week we'll get this straightened out, and then we'll call a special meeting to set the rates
If we have to.
if we have to.
What do you mean? You okay with that, John?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You okay with that, Rob?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, let's move on.
Can we even do that over a Zoom meeting? Maybe just,
Yeah, we can do it any way we
We
have
can
to.
do it any way we want now that
Yeah,
they.
the governor signed it, so we're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already have to have two.
Basically, if it's a hybrid meeting, you have to have two people from the board in present. If it is a strictly Zoom meeting, which I think you can still do, then we don't have to have everybody sitting here.
We'll double
Probably just
check
have
with
one
the clerk.
member with the staff.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the next item is the water system impact from Moderna Mill Creek development. Thank you, sir.
So, we talked about this in the past, about the impact from the Mill Creek development. I think it was 300 units, roughly. I'm not sure where they are right now. Planning and approval process. But the question was whether or not we had the capacity, and we were in the process of having a master plan done. And for this portion of it, I had Amory work on this section so that it would help answer the questions that we had with regard to allowing this 40,000 gallons a day demand in the high zone. There's a rather nice chart in the second sheet that Amory prepared. It shows you the average pumping. The development is going to be up in Enterprise Drive, in the Enterprise Park area. I think it's on Commerce. That's located in our high pressure zone area. So we have two pressure zones. The one serving the upper portion of Marshfield, which is typically in higher elevation. The hydraulic grade in that area is 300. It's higher than what we have down in the southern end of town, which is 235. So this is the high zone. So what Pat has done is he's computed the firm capacity, and that's firm capacity is what capacity we have in those particular zones with your largest source offline. It's kind of a safety factor. And so our firm capacity in the high zone was over 3 MGD, 3 million gallons a day. And our average daily pumpage in the high zone, that's based on from 2015 to 2021, in the high zone was about 1.12 MGD. So there's additional capacity to be able to expand. And so he's basically answered that question. And the other piece that the operators look at is how long are your pumps running for? And it's a little bit more of a factor of safety. They like to run their pumps, in the order of like 12 to 16 hours a day. It's a comfortable pumping. So at 12 hours per day, we still have about 1 MGD remaining, which is sufficient to be able to allow that 40,000 gallons, or 0.04 MGD, projected daily water consumption proposed by the 300 unit development. And I'm not sure, again, whether it's 300, but the number of 40,000 gallons a day, I think, remains as what they're looking for.
So I think there's sufficient capacity. Pat is, from Amory, Brandon is present at the meeting by Zoom. If you have any questions you want to talk to Pat about, you can weigh in here, but he's laid out a real nice presentation here. He separated the high zone and low zone. He's basically, the other thing that we were looking for is, how much you were authorized by the state through the water management withdrawal permit. We have, they've allowed us to withdraw 3.3 MGD. And we have about 600,000 plus gallons per day remaining capacity within that budget that water management permit allows. So there's room within the budget as well. I also checked with the planner to see if he had any plans for development in the downtown area and whether or not there were any, big water use expectations or planning going on in that area, and he had none. So I think that we could say that there's adequate capacity in the high zone to be able to handle this 40,000 gallons a day.
Okay, I do have a question for Pat, or perhaps yourself, Ron. As part of the planning board's review of this development, does this development have any capability of being able to, curtail, at least in whole or in part, in the case of a water emergency?
Excuse me, that I'm not quite sure of. The zoning board hasn't closed the hearing on this either, so right now it's still proposed at 300 units, but the board members and the general public that have attended the zoning board members' meetings have expressed concerns about the density of the project. So the water use, chances are that the number of units is going to go down here, so the water use may not be as much as the 40,000 that they've asked for. But they're obviously they have to do all the low flow plumbing fixtures and everything else that's required by code now to keep the water use down. I believe they plan to drill a well for irrigation purposes. I believe they did next door at Modera, the first phase of the project. So it would really only be the domestic use. There wouldn't be any use for irrigation or anything like that up there.
No, I guess the question, though, isn't really answered. Is that, there's still the potential for high consumption above, the forecast. And if we had a water emergency where basically we had more than just our single largest pumping capability, we might have a water main failure somewhere or something else like that. To me, these large planned units where there's a lot of use should have, as part of the granting by the planning board and the zoning board of appeals, some form of a curtailment plan in the event they are notified by the town water department. If we have a water emergency and we require you to, close off all non-essential water use, which basically means if you're not flushing the toilet and drinking water, it should be shut off.
Yeah, and I think that could certainly be, I think it would be a good idea for Board of Public Works to ask the zoning board to include that as a condition of the approval if they do approve that project. I think that's a fair condition, and I think that would be a good idea to include that if they do approve the project.
So that answers the question. It's not something that has already been examined and considered.
No.
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm all set.
Dave, I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
My question is the existing project up there, what is the current use of the building that was just developed over the last couple of years? What's their water use now?
Their water use was less than 30,000 gallons a day the last time I looked, but I only had 1 year's worth of data. And I wasn't sure on the, when they first open up the various buildings and whatnot, you don't have 100% occupancy. But I believe their target was 30,000 gallons a day, and I think we were somewhere around between 25 and 27,000, something like that. So they were underneath their target, but again, I wasn't sure if that was at 100% occupancy. So we need to look at that a little bit closer, but I think they're probably at their target. And when they gave us that number, I thought it was typical to the type of units that are out there and what we've seen in other developments. So it was a ballpark number. It seemed reasonable. But again, the actual data, I've only got 1 year, and I'm not really sure. We need another look at the data to be able to give you a better number.
So my point is that this new one is 40,000 gallons, and the other one's 30. That's 70,000 gallons. And you look at the different wells. I mean, we really fought hard to get like the Fairgrounds well online. I think it was the Fairgrounds on South River Street. With the cost of land and development and all that. I mean, Fairgrounds is 300 gallons. So we're looking at 10%, 20%, 30% of the one capacity of one well. I mean, are we getting any kind of kickback as far as helping us develop a new well system as part of this approval for water?
To my knowledge, the zoning board hasn't discussed that yet with the developer. So I think that would be, again, if the Board of Public Works were to submit some comments to the zoning board about some type of a mitigation for using that much water, I think that's a fair question to ask, and to try to get some mitigation there, get something out of them so that they're helping to pay for the maintenance and so forth going forward.
They do pay water connection fees, and they do pay the water conservation fee, which is not all that significant. It's $120 for residential equivalent. It helps fund our leak detection and our leak survey, so there is that as far as what they're paying into the for their connection. But I can talk to the planner about it, or the ZBA engineering rep, see what can be done there.
You also thought?
Question.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that we should have conditions on our approval.
Yeah, before I recognize you, the gentleman behind me had his hand up before you came on the Zoom. I'll take you next, okay?
Sure.
Name for the record, please.
Bernie Dupuy, I live at 6 Weatherbay Lane, which is up at the Season where this development is projected to go in. I'd like to give you some facts and figures about what's going on and what has gone on. The current project here, built under the Mill Creek and then later sold for $130.5 million. 248 units, 22 acres, 500 bedrooms, potential when full capacity for 750 residents. A year ago, or a year and a half, it was nowhere near capacity. It's still not at 100% capacity. When it is at the projected rate of 750 residents, using the average 70 gallons of water per day, which has actually gone up since this study was done, U.S. Geological Survey, they will be using 52,000 gallons just in that one complex that's already there. 52,000 gallons. the proposed unit that they're making as 300 units on a smaller acreage, 300 acres, an additional 50 bedrooms, 550, potential for 825 residents, okay, and their full potential would be an additional 57,000 gallons of water. Add the two units combined, we're talking 1,575 residents. I'll repeat that, 1,575 residents on a strip of land that's less than a quarter mile long, okay? Together, collectively, using approximately 110,000 gallons per day, 40 million gallons of water a year. Do we have that much water in the town of Marshfield? I don't know, but I bring it out of concern. The Mount Scourgo aquifer is right near there. I'm concerned not only about water usage or where's the water coming from, but also with their in-ground septic system. Is it going to flow into the Mount Scourgo aquifer, which is not all that far away from there? Dave, you brought up a number of comments, and I quoted them because they're right on target. Trying to keep water use down, adequate volume and pressure. People who live in that area have already noticed a dramatic drop in water pressure in the upstairs bathrooms. They've noticed, particularly in particular times of the day, they're not getting the water pressure that was there prior to that. You mentioned, and I know you're a golfer, I am as well, sand traps that you're looking for. This isn't a sand trap. This is a huge gravel minefield. I mean, this is not a small development. It's a development collectively of nearly 16,000 residents in such a small area. It's absolutely absurd. And, you know, I've been to almost every zoning board appeal meeting. They seem to think that, you know, water is not an issue. We don't have to address that. Let the Board of Public Health talk about that, and I don't think it's a concern. So I'm getting the impression from some people on the zoning board that this could just be, we'll, you know, rubber stamp it and it's going to go on. I think this is a serious impact on that immediate area. It has a serious impact on the overall water supply and usage in the town. Think of an emergency situation with a fire up there in that area. This is something that really needs to be addressed, and I implore you to please, I'm begging you to really look into this and take some facts and figures before you think about approving any type of thing like this without conditions. I mean, the usage right now is just unbelievable. I think it goes beyond the scope of that. When you think of, you know, 1,600 residents in an area that small, it's like a quarter of a mile square. And in a total of, what did I say, 36 acres. Think of that. The impact of 1,600 residents in 36 acres. If we following zoning bylaws, 36 acres, you would have what? 144 houses at 10,000 square feet? We're not talking 144 units, we're talking 548 residents, and that's usage. That's unbelievable, and I think that's something, as a Board of Public Works, you really need to look at and look at carefully now before it's too late. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Before I take the question, ma'am, Rod, as you were pointing out, you were in the realm of being aware that the usage you were seeing was not at full occupancy. Do we have like a representative median percentage of occupancy for each year of use so far?
It's only been, what, 2 years now?
Okay, so I mean, the answer is no, you don't have that, but that's a figure we should see, because then we can break it down on a per capita basis and project it out.
There's got to be water meters up there, right?
Oh,
There is, but it's also about, you know, how many units have been occupied, and
Right.
you know, the meters are already in place whether somebody's occupying it or not.
If it's inaccurate, and, you know, we'll look at what they did on the 248 units.
Okay,
If it's,
I don't know. Did you have the information on that, Pat?
I,
Go ahead.
the information on what their occupancy is?
Yeah, in other words, what the actual unit usage is. at this point in time.
When we met with him back in April or March, I believe, I think he said they're about 95%.
It sounds like that service on the high side. Bob, we've had a young lady here waiting online. I'm going to put her on, and then you can have the next go. Go ahead, ma'am. Your name for the record, please, and your address.
Maureen O'Malley, 12 Old Woodhart Lane. And we did ask what the occupancy was on the first phase at the last meeting at zoning, and they told us that it was 70% occupied.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, good?
No, that was it. I just wanted to give you the information.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Bob.
So Dave, I think that hearing what those other two folks have said, I think we really need to seriously think about putting conditions on any kind of approval.
Of course. I agree.
And I think, Pat Brand, we should have a discussion with you with Rod, what those conditions should be.
Yeah, I can try to come up with some language on the two conditions specifically that Dave had mentioned about the curtailing of water use in an emergency and something for, some type of a mitigation package.
And you mentioned, Pat, that they were planning on a private well for the purposes of lawn irrigation.
Correct.
And have they cited that, and how does it sit compared to our zone 2?
This is just outside the zone 2. The zone 2 line is just off the east, the southeast property corner of the development. And I do, like I said, I do believe that they have a well on the first phase of the project for irrigation over there also. I'm not sure where it would be sited. They really haven't. The plans that they've submitted to the zoning board are extremely preliminary at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I guess this was a discussion item, but I guess we need further discussion and then to come up with an action. So let's look at the usages. We don't have control as far as the density and the location of the property. That rests with other boards, not ours. But when it comes to putting conditions on water consumption, we do have some authority in that. And in particular, I think where we might have to do some well upgrades or something similar down the line, when we're dealing with developments of this size, a contribution in support of that is not inappropriate. But I think our maximum well take is close to limit though, right?
Pardon me?
The maximum well take itself is close to limit as far as, we only have the capability of like 1 or 2 more wells if I recall.
Yeah, and maybe 200 gallons a minute at best.
Yes, low capacities, yeah.
We're pretty maxed out in terms of where we can site additional wells.
Yeah, I mean, the last one I remember working on with you when I was engineering staff was the one down off the, south side of the Black Mountain, southwest side of the Black Mountain.
Pioneer Trail.
Yeah, and that was long ago.
Yeah,
And
that's a question.
My memory was that did not have a lot of capacity on the bailing test either.
Now, a couple of 175 gallon minute, 200 gallon minute, something like that.
So we are, right now our capacity can probably accommodate some, if not all of this. I will get to you in a minute. Okay. However, the bottom line comes down that, we do need to proceed with some caution on this and put forth our concerns.
We can check with the Board of Health to see how their wastewater system is functioning. They're supposed to forward reports to the Board of Health.
And I mean, that would be, when you consider the volume of wastewater coming out of there and the direction in which it's going to flow, and it's to basically our oldest and least treated well. I know because I helped build it. Yeah, we need to have that as a definite concern, and that drops to I think maybe the PFAS letter should go to the residents of these folks. Okay, I think we can move on from that. I'm sorry, Eric, you had to get the
Yes, Dave.
Name and record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric Kelly, please, Pat. And you just touched up on it. regards to what also Bernie brought up is, besides the water usage, which is great, but the whole thing is that their sewer discharge, there should be something to concern about. And, you know, when I was at the ZBA meeting, I asked them how far the well is, and it was almost 3,000 feet away, except from their property line, which is not too far, where they're planning their treatment plant. But the thing is that we don't know what the town, the Board of Public Works, DPW has a map of the whole entire aquifer area. That would be nice to get. And then as well as what you're talking about is the flow rate from the septic system, leaching field they have, because I believe it's going to go in a downward slope heading towards the aquifer. You know, I think we need to know what the flow rate is on that, and in the topographical maps as well, as regards to what everybody's looking at. That should be a concern, especially if they go forward 300 units. That's going to be a massive amount of discharge. And as well as, I do recall a few years back that I believe off 3A, 3 homes were bought up because they were, Homeland Security felt they were too close to one of the wells, and they were afraid that there was a possibility of being contaminated. So there's, we were puzzled on that one.
We bought those properties.
We bought the properties. The
What's
reason
that?
we purchased.
We bought those properties in order to get rid of the septic systems that were within the zone.
Within the zone.
Right.
Was that a Homeland Security issue?
No.
Oh, okay. I heard that was just you.
Yeah.
That's basically the water department has the requirement to control or own zone 1. And the septic system for the 2 houses plus the old Casa Marini, which is now the child care center there, that actually, we were owning, operating, and maintaining that septic system. Yeah, until we bought those properties, and then that leaching field and septic system could be curtailed back out of zone 1.
All right, so, I mean, you did that.
That was strictly to comply, come into compliance on Ferrisbrook 3, which actually, since Ferrisbrook 3 lies, zone 1 lies right in the Route 3A corridor, it's really a bit of, you know, overkill from the standpoint of, yeah, we bought the septic system, but whatever's coming down the road is coming down the road.
That is true.
But we also, in that particular well site, because of the prior contaminations back in the 80s and 90s, you know, that has carbon filters which take out most of anything that gets in anyway.
All right, there you go.
If I may, just one last comment. I think, you know, this is, I've said it before, I'll repeat it, and I know you're taking it seriously, and I appreciate that. I think it's something that really should be of concern of every resident living in the town in terms of how it's going to affect water pressure, water usage, and everything in there. You know, didn't even mention the school population. There's a potential here to have, I figured that out, an additional 300 students added to the town at a cost of $4,399,000. I mean, this is not a win situation for Marshfield by approving that. You know, they're using the guys, they come in with the lawyers that they're paying a high price 3-piece suits, talk what a great deal they're giving the town of Marshfield with offering 40B, you know, affordable houses so we can violate all your rules. But bottom line is, you know, they sold it for $130.5 million. They walked out on it, and they could care less about what the town's going to have to deal with down the road. So I appreciate your concern on this. Thank you. You're welcome.
Dave, I have one more, if you don't mind. In regards to, just we bring up the water pressure in that area, especially since the first development was built. I mean, can you put, depending on where the ZBA goes with this in regards to the amount of units, I mean, can the Board of Public Works put conditions on in regards to the developer? I don't know what you have to do to increase pressure up there in regards to a bigger main or something like that, but the developer being responsible for it, and not the taxpayers?
The main doesn't create pressure, it gives you capacity.
So what would give you the pressure?
The pressure is from from the high and low zones, from the tanks, that produces the pressure.
But in certain, in this, we have zones where people have residences where because they are at an elevation, they have booster pumps on the inlet to their house, so that, you know, they're boosting the house pressure up so that they get the adequate pressure. And
Who doesn't have pressure?
Talk to the woman on the screen. Her husband.
Over at Skirgo?
Woodlot.
Which is elevated compared to Skirgo. And, you know, it is, you know, I can see the issue, but it may be that, you know, we need to look at.
We can go monitor it, and we've got electronics and stuff like that. We can look to see if there is this drop that we're seeing,
Yeah, and
how it would affect it.
At a particular time of day, I can picture when you have a 300-unit facility, you know, everybody's heading up to school and going to work at the same time,
Right.
so that means all water's flowing at a big time point right now.
We have the ability, I think, to look at the
Yeah,
exact.
and we might even find ourselves with some kind of a system situation where we have to have a, you know, a satellite volume tank and a pump to feed off it if we get in that situation. And that is something that should land on the back of the developer that is creating that situation.
Ferry Street, down as you get to
Yeah.
the bottom, Ferry at Coast Guard Hill.
Yeah.
A lot of those residences that are set up are all on boosters. So they have a booster to get the water all the way up the hill.
The capacity flowing out of the system is not impacted by that per se, because the volume is the same, it's just you're getting a little more, you know, pressure out of your tap when you like it. It's doable, but your points are well taken, and I think the board and staff will be taking those into consideration, making as much points as we can with our compatriots on the zoning board of appeals and the planning board.
Are you suggesting that the residents there, I'm not putting words in your mouth, need to go out and buy booster pumps to get the water? Or?
No, we're not.
We're gonna go up and take a look at it. We'll kind of monitor it and see, we can put a gauge on a spigot and get your pressure.
And get it over time so that we know the scenarios in which the pressure is down and
Right.
it's up. And you know, basically, if the system pressure itself, because of the increased use, you know, it is possible to raise or lower as the necessity comes the level inside the tanks themselves within a narrow band. You don't want to go too high because of daytime use, because at dark 30, it's not there, you might have some pressure issues on the other one. You know, particularly you've got an older home that's been kicking around for a while, might suddenly discover a pipe failure.
Some of these homes have PRV, and it's set at a certain pressure, usually 60
Right.
pounds.
Pressure refill, yep.
That might be something that could be adjusted if there is a
Right.
problem, but we should know if this is,
Yes, so,
this demand is causing some sort of a pressure reduction. So we can look at that. In fact, we're doing the master plan right now, so that's something we can look into.
so
Maybe.
I guess you've got some orders to give Paul tomorrow morning.
Well, like, you Brent Rock, what do we got, about 115 down there for pressure?
Yes,
It's
up
high. The lower you go, the higher it gets.
Yeah,
Dave, we have another question?
sure.
No, I'm
Oh, no, sorry, no, thank you. Please, go ahead.
Maureen O'Malley, 12 Old Woodlot Lane. I just wanted to state that this is phase 2 of Mill Creek, but it's not all of the building that is going to be done up here. They zoned it for an affordable village at the town meeting, so more housing is coming in. They're in the process of dealing with a school that's coming in for special needs students. And it's also been, another area has been zoned for daycare. So there's a lot more activity coming up here.
Thank you. I was aware of that, both of those, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let's go to the, oh, sorry, Bob, you say something?
No, let's go.
Okay.
Dave, it even makes more sense to have conditions on this approval when it gets to that point.
Well taken.
Yep.
Okay, the minutes.
Okay, we agree. Okay, so let's go to the minutes.
I've read the minutes, I don't have a problem.
I am good with both the open minutes, 6:13 and 6:28, 6:22, as well as the executive session minutes for 6:22, 6:28, 22.
I'll second that.
You're gonna take it one at a time or both?
We'll take them one at a time.
Okay, so 6:13:22 open meeting minutes has been, motion's been made and seconded to approve. Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
I'm gonna abstain because I haven't seen them.
Okay. 2-0, 1 abstention, to approve.
Okay, I motion the minutes of 6:28 through 22, 9:22 be approved.
Yeah, I read those, and those are fine. Thank you, Emery.
Motion is seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
That's all good.
Yeah, I haven't read them, so I have to abstain.
Okay, 2-0 passes.
Superintendent's report.
Well, actually, we have to do the June 28th, 2022 executive session minutes. I move that we accept them as written.
Second.
I move and seconded.
A motion's been made and seconded. Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
I'm going to abstain because I haven't seen them.
Okay, 2-0, they pass.
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report, thank you. Line painting is ongoing. Again, it's weather depending. If somebody forgets to shut off their sprinkler system after we've requested, we have to cancel the painting in that area. Roadside mowing is ongoing. Chapter 90 money has been approved. We are currently waiting for the governor to sign the bill. Could take up to 10 days. It was on his desk, I believe, Thursday or Friday. So he has 10 days to veto anything in particular, but that should free up Chapter 90. Chapter 90 currently right now, I have 2 quotes to do Oak Street and Highland Street. Today I received a letter to proceed from the Winter Road Recovery Program, $440,000. That's earmarked for Joseph Draper Way guardrail replacement on Ocean Street, Mayflower to Adams Road, Mill and repave that section of roadway. There'll be other things with the Chapter 90 rod is needs some to do some more work over there at Willow to get that bridge ready to go out, hopefully to get the small bridge.
Yeah, final design, we're gonna move forward on it.
Right.
Time stuff.
So we've been working on that. We currently, today, hopefully we had a vacancy in equipment maintenance. I made an offer today to someone for that, for a new mechanic. I have a truck driver's vacancy, a laborer's vacancy, and cemetery trees and greens, and I have a water craftsman position open in the water department. Also, one of our admin assistants has given a notice. This Friday will be her last day. That job has been posted, and we have a couple of candidates that we're going to interview next week. Other than that, that's pretty much, and the 965 Plain Street. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that, but we've got 2 of the slabs are poured. They're working on the septic system. They pretty much finished up the drainage around the building. The water connection is in. They're doing the leaching field for septic right now. They're preparing the walls for the brick veneer. We're looking at steel coming in about the middle of August, they're saying, and there'll be 3 different deliveries of the panels. I've spoken with the gas company. I think we've rectified the gas issue. The gas company is going to install the main themselves, and they'll own it. Yeah, after talking to a few different people, I had one of the engineers come out, walk the site with me. I had the contractor that I was going to hire to do the job. He talked with the gas company also, and pretty much kind of, the gas company's gone along with his recommendation of what, they thought because it's behind the meter, they thought that they would have to get special permitting and have a state inspector inspect it rather than the local. But they got back to me and said that they don't need any special permits. The local inspector can come in and do the inspections.
It's a high pressure.
It's a high pressure. It's
Makes sense.
yeah, it's 2-inch out front. They have a pressure test on the 2-inch that runs down plane. They don't have a test on the 1.25 that comes into our meter. So they're gonna come in, they're gonna set up a test. You're gonna have to shut the system down for an hour and test it. And then once that test is done, then they can do the installation.
That'll be a quick install.
Yeah, you know, it's, you know, when we were working with the contractor, we were trying to get the best bang for our buck. We told them that we'd do the saw cut for the trench. We told them we'd do the patching, whatever we could do to get this done in a timely manner. They were all willing to work with us on it. It was just getting the gas company to give us an answer, and we're finally there now.
Yeah, it saved a lot of money though on that.
Yes, well, I got a price for $20,000. The sub for the general contractor and the builder gave me a price for $42,000. And so the gas company's gonna do it for nothing. So we saved some money.
Nice.
And maybe that'll help us furnish the inside of the building.
Can't hurt.
Let's go.
I have one question, that 35 Windsor.
35
I know you were doing
Windsor.
some checking on getting that working.
Tomorrow morning, we have a meeting with Barnes,
Fine Street, okay, good.
and we're hoping that we're gonna ask them at the very least to just trim around the wires and we'll take the statues down.
Yeah, okay. I mean, but you know, there's actually, instead of that one maple now, there's two
Well,
trees.
now there's
Well,
four.
3 trees, I mean, basically. But I mean, 2 of those are those old beat-up pine trees, and they're pretty large. And, you know, I mean, some of those look like a crane job.
Yeah, and if my arborist tells me those trees are alive, I'm not cutting them down.
And if your arborist tells you that, I'll back your play 100%.
All right, thank you.
As will the rest of the board, I'm sure.
If the trees were diseased or dying or in some state of disrepair, we would consider taking them down.
Yeah.
But if they're a good tree, they're not an issue right now, I think we can get away with it.
Well, I mean, that one maple is not an unhealthy tree. You look at it, it's foliage, nice and stuff. The problem is the fact that the guy next door, infringing on the conservation property, has caused that tree to lean over.
So we'll know tomorrow when we're gonna address that.
Very good, okay. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second. Board.
Hold us, Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was listening.
You were excited to leave, go ahead.
Yes. Chairman Carrier.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Cusick.
Aye.
Clerk Shaughnessy.
Hi, thank you for having
Good
me.
night.
Okay, thank you
Dave,
all.
for being here and doing that for us.